For all my love of it, the lore of Dark Souls can be a bit confusing at times. Okay, a lot of the time. But I like that there's an odd measure of uncertainty in everything. Search long enough and you may find the answers to profound mysteries. But they will more often than not just give you more questions. But few stories are as uncertain as the tale of Artorias the Abysswalker. Warning, spoilers ahead. This video assumes that you know the full story of Artorias and what is not his story, as well as some Dark Souls 3 spoilers. I will not be retelling the story of Artorias, however I will provide a little context. Artorias was a part of a group known as the Four Knights of Grimm. His name was spoken alongside other legendary figures, such as Dragon Slayer Ornstein, Hawkeye Goff, and Lord's Blade Ciaran. Sometime after Grimm linked the fire, Artorias was sent on a mission by Anor to investigate the Abyss, and was given the silver pendant to help on his arduous journey. His description reads, "Silver pendant engraved with the crest of Artorias, one of the ancient treasures of Anor, presented to Artorias for facing the Abyss. Effectively deflects the dark of the Abyss, especially in its magic forms. But either the pendant did not work, or was not enough to stave off the Abyss, or perhaps it was even sabotaged by someone with a lot of magical knowledge. And so he had to turn to other means. I'd like to read you the item description for the Covenant of Artorias. This ring symbolizes Knight Artorias' covenant with the beast of the Abyss. Its wearer, like Artorias himself, can traverse the Abyss." Now, what exactly these beasts are is up for debate. Many say that these beasts refer to Kaf, while others say it refers to Alvina, the white cat. Others think it means Ciaran for some reason. But the thing is, while the official translation uses the word beast, the original Japanese is even more vague in its description. A more direct translation would be Ring of Proof the Knight Artorias once contracted with a fiend of the Abyss. The equipper will be able to walk an abyss just like Artorias. As translated and pointed out by Loki on LokiSouls.com, the word they use is Mamono, which is more of a generic term for an evil creature. It could mean beasts, or demons, or monsters, fiends, and whether or not there are multiple is also a bit of an unknown, I believe. And that's the thing about Dark Souls. Despite being almost 13 years old, there's so much about it I still don't know. So I'm not kidding when I say I'm considering learning Japanese just to understand the lore better. I don't believe we will ever truly know for sure what these abyssal entities that Artorias may deal with are, but I would like to put forth my own, possibly inane hypothesis. Of all the lore debates, something I have never seen anyone mention is the possible connection between the beasts of the Abyss and the pus of man. The Dark Souls 3 official guide describes him like so. Exploding from the bodies of unfortunate undead, this consuming chaos corruption manifests as an amorphous black blob, vaguely resembling some horrific beast in silhouette, but with no recognizable shape. No recognizable shape, huh? Well, I wouldn't say that. I think it's worth noting they bear quite a striking resemblance to Manus, father of the Abyss, leading me to believe that these abyssal creatures are perhaps a lesser expression of the Dark Soul, of humanity. But we know for sure that they are abyssal because the Wolf Knight's greatsword does extra damage to them. Now, could the beasts of the abyss be the pus of man? Well, although they are not seen until Dark Souls 3, we know for sure that they existed beforehand. The Follower's Torch tells us this. An offensive torch used by the Ciaran followers provides light and doubles as a weapon. Some forms of the abyss manifest as pus within the body, treated from ancient times with fire. Now, how ancient they are talking is unknown. Time is convoluted in Dark Souls, after all. Ancient could refer to Dark Souls 2 era, Dark Souls 1, or even pre-Dark Souls 1. Strangely, there are very few mentions of the pus of man within Dark Souls 3's item descriptions, and one of them being related to the followers of Ciaran might not be a coincidence. When you battle and give mercy to Artorias and claim his soul, the Lord's Blade Ciaran will appear and ask you for it.
You? Is that not the soul of the man who fell on this spot? He was a dear friend. I wish to pay proper respect with that soul. Would you be willing to part with it? Thank you. You are very kind. Please take this. I no longer need it. May the Lord guide thee.
If you accept, she offers you her weapons, the gold and dark silver tracers. Interestingly, there is also unused dialogue in the game, where Ciaran asks of you instead the Covenant or Ring of Artorias.
Ring? Human, why have you the Ring of Artorias? I am Ciaran, and that is a keepsake. It was purloined by a man in a long coat. I know not how you came upon it, but its owner met his death here. He was a dear companion, and I wish to return the ring to his grave. Would you be willing to part with it?
The assuredness that she will no longer need her weapons was something that struck me as odd, until I remembered that in the present time of Dark Souls 1, there was a woman's corpse behind the grave of Artorias, and on it we find the Hornet Ring. It is the ring of the Lord's Blade Ciaran. She likely died there after paying her proper respects to be with her dear Artorias once again. Though what she actually did with the soul is unknown, and I have two theories, or hypotheses, that aren't necessarily mutually exclusive. One being she gave some of it to Seath, thus being why their soul gives versions of Artorias' weapons. However, I also think there's a strong likelihood that Ciaran might have used the soul to create an early iteration of the Abysswalkers. Defeating the Abysswalkers grants you the soul of the blood of the wolf, which says, one of the twisted souls steeped in strength is to acquire numerous souls or transpose to extract its true strength. The blood was spread amongst the Abysswalkers, and their souls are one with the soul of the Wolf Blood Master. This twisted soul can be transposed into the Wolf Knight's greatsword, which reads, Greatsword of a knight tainted by the dark of the abyss, and master of the wolf's blood of Ciaran. The Wolf Knight was the first Abyss Watcher, and his sword is more punishing against creations of the abyss. By the description and its design, it's incredibly obvious that the Wolf Blood Master is Artorias. But what of Ciaran? Well, let's look into the other item Artorias' wayward soul can be transposed into. Ciaran Greatsword. Greatsword of the Abyss Watchers, which is atypically paired with a dagger. The dagger is utilized as a wedge in the left hand, while the greatsword is held in the right. A unique technique that was synonymous with the Undead Legion. Confounds foes the manner of wolves hunting prey. The sword part is definitely designed to be reminiscent of the great sword of Artorias. But what of the dagger? Well, upon looking further, the description sounds quite familiar. Ciaran's gold tracer says, curved sword used by Lords of Blade Ciaran, one of Gwyn's 4 knights. Ciaran brandishes her sword in a mesmerizing dance, etching the darkness with dire streaks of gold. While the dark silver tracer states, a dark silver dagger used by Lords of Blade Ciaran of Gwyn's 4 knights. The victim is first distracted by dazzling streaks of the gold tracer, then stung by the vicious poison of this dagger. If you add this with the fact that the Hornet Ring appears in the untended graves after you defeat the Abyss Watchers, I don't see it as a stretch to say that Ciaran likely had some hand in creating the organization. Another interesting note is if you refuse to hand her the soul of Artorias, she says.
Yes, of course. I must not be presumptuous. Artorias would not have approved.
Perhaps what she considers proper respect for Artorias was for him to be idolized as an inspiration to those who would inevitably follow in his footsteps and fight against the Abyss. But as we know, Artorias failed in his mission. And thus, I don't think he would take too kindly for the power of his Abyss-tainted soul to be spread to others, just so they can take up what is ultimately a futile quest. But also note, it is possible that Ciaran created the Undead Legions so others could learn from Artorias' mistakes. Mistakes such as making deals with the Beast of the Abyss, perhaps. And thus, the Watchdogs of Ciaran developed methods to deal with them, like the Follower's Torch, and possibly even the fire in their blood, was all developed to better fight against the Abyss in its many forms. The Pus of Man is simply humanity, remnants of the Dark Soul gone wild. How could a pact ever be formed with them? Well, remember that the ability to speak is not necessary to form a pact. I mean, look at the Path of the Dragon in Dark Souls 1. The Everlasting Dragon does not say anything to us, yet we join its covenant. It's also worth noting that the Japanese translated version of Artorias' armor says this: Helmet of the Abysswalker Artorias, one of the 4 knights of King Gwyn. As if showing its owner's final moments, it is corrupted by the dark of the Abyss, and the proud, imminent ultramarine tassel is soaking wet without drying. Now maybe this is just me, but I feel like this is a bit of an odd detail to put in an item description for the armor of the dude who the entire DLC is named after, and not have it mean anything. Okay, so what is making the armor eternally moist? I can't believe I'm asking that seriously. My first thought is that it is blood, specifically the blood of the wolf, but that doesn't make sense. I mean, I am sure Artorias bleeds, but to be eternally wet? No. Even the blood of the pygmy lords dried. It has to be something else. My next thought is that it's just an effect the Abyss has, but that doesn't hold up either, as no other armor sets related to the Abyss make any mention of being damp, at least that I can find. Which leads me to believe that this dampness has to do with the contract he formed with the creatures of the Abyss. I mean, making the contract supposedly curse the sword, making it able to harm ghosts after all, why not this? And what else could do this than the ever-flowing disease that stems from humanity, the living pus of man's darkness? Now, you might say that, well, Artorias isn't human. He doesn't have humanity. And you're right. But harboring the pus of man isn't something that is exclusive to humans, as there are 2 wyverns that also have them. One thing I've glossed over is that the pus of man takes the form of a serpent-like creature, and the serpent is seen as an imperfect dragon, and is the symbol of the undead. So, the question becomes, is there a connection between the Puss Man and dragons? Well, I think so, and it all comes back to another imperfect dragon, Seath the Scaleless.
Believe it or not, Oceiros has brought the abyss upon itself, fooled by that toothy serpent.
I always thought that the toothy serpent Chester was talking about was Darkstalker Kaf. It only made sense given their involvement with the Dark and the Abyss, but I can't completely rule out the idea that Seath was the cause of it all. Princess Dusk, who we have to free from a crystal golem of Seath's, says that Oceiros is the home of ancient sorceries, and we also know that Seath is the founder of sorcery. If you add that with the fact that the broken pendant that Manus is searching for is also in the Duke's archive, I think it's clear that Seath had something to do with the events in Oceiros, even if Kaf is also involved. I can't even say for sure that they didn't work together at some point. Kaf calls Seath a traitor. Does this refer to the dragons, or something more personal? Seath has a fragment of Gwyn's Lord Soul, much like the Four Kings. That would be reason enough for Kaf to try and forge a deal. Regardless, the Puss Man do seem to have some relation to Seath the Scaleless. The majority of these enemies are around the Lothric area. There are the infected, let's say wyverns of the Lothric Castle, and there are already transformed Puss Men within the Consumed King's Garden. This leads me to believe that they are connected with Oceiros. Oceiros, the Consumed King, rediscovered the worship of Seath the Pale Drake, and became obsessed with him and harvesting the power of dragons. And we know he was involved in the creation of the Wretches, which are experimental hybrids of human and dragon, locked in the Irithyll dungeon. Now, I know a thing or two about the obsession for dragons. The 100+ tabs I've opened researching for this video is testimony of that. But I think that Oceiros' title of the Consumed King might be talking about a bit more than just obsession. Transposing the soul of Oceiros grants you the Moonlight Greatsword, the same weapon you get in Dark Souls 1 from cutting off Seath's tail. And the other option for the soul gives you the sorcery, the White Dragon's Breath. The very same spell that Big Hat Logan created after becoming obsessed with Seath the Scaleless and going mad. I think there's a pattern here, but that will be all for this video. I can't definitively say what the beasts of the Abyss are. There could just as easily be an entity we never encounter in game, but I think it's cool to speculate about other possibilities. So please let me know what you think in the comments, and let me know if I got anything wrong, or if there's a translation that says something less vaguely. See ya. Like and subscribe, I guess, and have a good evening.